You're listening to Simple Roots Wellness, episode number 222, and we're episode 4 in this energy series for summer. And today I have a special guest breaking down energy in the most fascinating way.
Welcome to Simple Roots Radio with Alexa Schirm. Alexa believes that simplicity in life is the key to achieving true and lasting health. And now your host, Alexa Schirm.
Welcome back to this podcast. As always, my name's Alexa. This is the place to make health simple because I really believe that health should not be as complicated as we've made it, and it definitely shouldn't be the means of living your life, right? Health is designed as a tool to live your life, not live for health. So that's what we're doing here at Simple Roots Radio, and I hope in the process you get healthy, you find more joy, and you live happy. So today on the podcast, we are breaking down energy. Now, I've been putting in some solo shows in episode 219, 220, and 221, all about energy in the body, why it's important, understanding it with hormones, and so much more. So you're going to want to check out those podcasts. But today, I wanted to have a guest on to share his view as he actually studies quantum biology and the study of energy inside the body. So I wanted to have a guest on to inform you more. So you don't just hear it from me, but you hear it from other people, and I wanted to learn from him too. So today on the show, we have Dr. Mizak. Dr. Mizak is a doctor of naturopathic medicine. He's a licensed pharmacist and a father of 5 kids. After receiving his degree in pharmacy, he gained years of university hospital clinical pharmacy experience at Duke University Medical Center, with its primary focus in oncology and general medicine. But his story changes, and I'm not going to share it here because I want him to tell that. But now Dr. Mizak runs a private naturopathic practice in Pittsburgh, does regular YouTube shows teaching quantum bioelectrical health concept, and has been published multiple times in Naturopathic Doctor News and Review. I'm so excited to have Dr. Mizak on the show as we break down energy. I'm going to ask him all of the things like what is energy, how does it move through our body, why we need to differentiate between energy and calories and other sources of energy in life, how it changes our DNA, and so much more. I have so many questions to ask, and I'm so thrilled that he's here, and I hope you enjoyed this interview just as much as I did. If you want to learn more about Dr. Mizak, make sure you head to the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/222. It's 222 to get all of the resources from today's show and where you can learn more about what he does and his offerings. Also, while you're there, you're going to want to pick up the batch cooking guide for summer. It is live. People are loving it, and I hope it could be a tool that you can use to just incorporate healthy living practices like getting good healthy food in your refrigerator that's already cooked and ready to just reheat and serve. That is my name of the game, convenience. Because health should not be complicated. It should not be another thing that you have to do, but just a means of more fully living your life. So if you want to learn more about the batch cooking guide for summer, it's over at simplerootswellness.com. I mean, it has my favorite sweet potato fries, chicken salad, flatbread, grilled skewers. I mean, so much is over there, along with some of my favorite sauces for summer, like a chimichurri sauce, avocado ranch, a bruschetta, and more. So make sure you head on over to simplerootswellness.com to grab that batch cooking guide. It's less than a few drinks from Starbucks. I mean, it is going to be your jam this summer. So check that out. But in the meantime, let's get back to today's show and welcome Dr. Mizak to the show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Mizak. I'm pumped to have you on to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and that's energy, but even more the work that you're doing. And I'm excited to dig into that. So thank you for being here.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So today I wanted to start off just talking about energy. We're kind of in the middle of this energy series, and I've been talking personally a lot about it. And so I just wanted to have someone on the show that can give us a little bit deeper look into this. So can you tell us what is energy? How does it move through the body? And why is it important to get more energy?
How about energy is everything? Everything you see, everything you understand. Quantum physics and, good old Einstein said E equals mc squared. Energy is the same thing as matter with the speed of light constant. And so if you break that down on the human level, matter, our energy, which breaks down to heat and electricity. And then it's all electromagnetic. So it breaks down to frequency and vibration. And so when you get down to it, then you're saying, how does it move through the body? Well, amazingly enough, I think the Chinese observed energy movement, thousands of years ago with acupuncture points, which are measurable. There's equipment called electrodiagnostic equipment out there. Electro acupuncture by Voll, a guy named Reinhard Voll in the 1950s, figured out how to measure electricity at galvanic points and found that acupuncture points actually had a stable amount of energy. And when they were out, then it suggested that if energy wasn't flowing there, he saw the associations measurably with acupuncture. And it was just amazing stuff. So how do you get more of it? You don't, because energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just transformed from one form to another. So, energy is really an incredible focus, and so I kind of focus and teach people the aspects of a process in the body versus looking at products and things for energy. But that's a good basis of where to start.
Yeah. Talk more about the process rather than the products, because I think we often hear that we can create more energy and food is energy. And we have all these concepts that are so confusing. So can you go more in depth into that?
Wow, that's a huge one. So food is energy. How about I say that the day that you consume more energy than you get from your food is the first day of disease? Okay, so there's a threshold and your body can only handle X amount of stress because you only have X amount of energy to deal with. So you have the same amount of energy that you did when you were 12 years old, running and biking and just, but back then you didn't have all the mental, emotional concerns. You didn't have an accumulated time of environmental pollutions that slowly can accumulate in us if we don't have good elimination through our body and processes being supported to handle that load. So I teach a total load theory. I came up years ago with what I call the 5-phase health system, where you're looking at number one, environmental protection, pure air, pure food, pure water, electromagnetic fields. How do you modify these things and lower the total load on the body? Phase two is identifying your personal loads with some type of testing to identify what are the food sensitivities or chemical reactivities that I have personally. Phase three is support. What does my body need to support? Not do I take this from my thyroid and this from my adrenals, but overall, how does the body function? And I've broken that down to a bioelectric concept where minerals are the basis of what we truly need. Phase four is detox. So if you get your energy levels to where you're getting more energy from your food than what your body needs, then what happens is that you will actually start to detoxify. Your body say, hey, why am I holding on to this crap that's not in vibration with me? And it'll start eliminating. And phase five is kind of self-awareness, just kind of becoming aware of how those things focus in. So when you're talking, energy, and we talk food, most people look at it from a calorie standpoint. We can talk about that as well, but I just kind of try to give an overall perspective of how the body is in focus.
Yeah. No, that's so good, because I always say it's not so much what you do to your body, but it's what your body does with it. That's what really matters. And I feel like there's a huge energy component to that. And so as we use those systems, I think everyone is listening to this podcast thinking like, I'm just here because I truly just want to be healthier. And there's so many messages out there about how to do that. What is your take on the use of this system that you have and this process that you have of healing the body and truly walking yourself into health?
Well, I think in order to give a perspective, people have to understand my perspective and where I come from. I'm a pharmacist trained, WVU. I worked in the general medical aspects and rounding clinical pharmacy at Duke Medical Center before I realized, hey, this is not healing. And I'm always kind of somebody who how does things work? How do, taking them apart. I love to tinker on cars and whatever else. And then the human body became my fascination. I went to naturopathic medical school and did compounding pharmacy while I was there. And so on the side while I went through medical school. So when you're looking at things, anybody can only make a recommendation based upon their level of understanding. And my level of understanding is just a little different than everybody, because even after school, as I'm looking how does this work? How does this work? We go down to the cellular level, then people start going down towards genetic DNA. And then I broke it down and said, hey, let's go down to the aspects of energy and how's that energy created? And so it's created because of mineralization. When you break the body down in composition, you're 60% calcium, 24% phosphorus, 12% potassium, 85 trace minerals make up the remainder. And when you go back to ashes, so is that important to know? Hell yeah, because when you look at energy in the body, we'll measure EEGs, EKGs, EMGs, these studies that look at electrically what the body is doing, and know that there's calcium channels that are transforming energy, as well as sodium and potassium gates that stimulate these potentials of electricity in the body. But who's looking at how these minerals play a role in how that energy moves? And so that's where I just kind of changed my focus, and I learned about a guy named Dr. Kerry Reams who broke the body down to where if I were to ask you what is perfect health, or anybody out there listening, everybody's going to have a different definition for perfect health. Whereas Dr. Kerry Reams turned around and defined perfect health mathematically. He found he developed, or kind of, he said he was inspired. It was godly inspired to mathematically, he had an equation in his head, and then he tested these parameters and said, hey, when you have these parameters coming out of your body with sugars, pH, which regulates the frequency and the speed, the sugars dictate the available energy, the conductivity represents salts and the fluid densities in the body, the cell debris is cell turnover, and nitrates is amino acid, is basically how your body is utilizing proteins for whether it's using it to building blocks in the body or whether you're breaking down in the body. And so he defined mathematically what perfect energy efficiency was, to where what we would call the line of least resistance. If you have this chemistry, your body is maximally producing energy all the way down to the level of DNA. It's incredible stuff. And so we measure, and I've taken a very analytical approach to understanding health. And that's where my practice is focused in on.
Yeah. And let's talk more about that, because DNA or energy changes our DNA, and you've studied a lot about this and anti-aging, and which is the key component in living a healthy life. So can you touch on why it's not just about our DNA, but how our body's expressing that, and the research that you've found in your practice?
Well, most people, when you're looking at DNA, they're saying, hey, you have something that's triggering a consistent turnover of building. It's like a blueprint. Here's the blueprint for the next cells that are continually going to be produced that are in this cell line. And DNA is a blueprint, but people can carry these DNA fractions that can say, hey, we got modified a little bit. Now we're making a slightly imperfect blueprint. And even though you can carry a gene, doesn't mean that that's going to be expressed as the primary focus of what comes out. You might have that gene being expressed on a level to where it's not affecting us. But the idea is, on a genetic level, is that you're expressing genes that are healthy. And so the biggest anti-aging discovery in the history of mankind was in 2009 by 3 physiologists, and they got the Nobel Prize for Medicine for an enzyme called telomerase, because telomeres are at the end of DNA, and as they shorten, we age. Period. Period. It's just that. So, and they discovered this enzyme telomerase, and if there's a high amount of this enzyme, that enzyme prevents the fraying and the breakdown of this DNA. So, me, and the way my brain works on how to break, how to look at things and how they work, that's where I kind of put that compounding pharmacy together, that naturopathic perspective. But on a cellular level, how do I support this? And I started doing research and came up with a product called Vitalometry, and so Vitalometry is using herbs that have been shown to have telomerase activity, but in an eclectic way to support systems in the body. You have ginkgo for brain circulation. You have milk thistle for liver. The liver is your nuclear generator in your body. It's what has to take everything over and you make it so your body can utilize it and prepare to build healthy cells. It has sambucus, which is in there for immune activity, but also polyphenols that actually have antioxidant activity. It has green tea for antioxidant activity, because if you go and you look at stuff about telomere activity, and most products out there are multivitamin, because certain vitamins and antioxidant focused, but your DNA trauma and anything that is stress affects your telomeres. If you had childhood trauma, you can live shorter because of that. If you don't sleep, you can live shorter because of that. It affects your telomeres. It's been shown that people that meditate can lengthen their telomeres.
How is it yeah, sorry, not to interrupt you, but how is that acting? Like what is a specific, like how is it actually shortening that?
Well, it's a stress breakdown. It's the lack of that enzyme is what happens is the cells turn over, and there was a thing called the Hayflick discovery where cells turn over and then they get to a point where they stop turning over, and it's called senescence or something like that, where they stop dividing. And so they found that it's just these, there's a length of like a pre-programmed death of a cell. Hey, we could turn over this many times. And so, but what they find is that if telomeres are lengthened, that length maintains longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the aspects of what causes it to break down is multifactorial. It's like I said, where I talked about stress, environmental stress, mental, emotional stress, spiritual stress, electromagnetic fields, you're having frequencies that could be coming through your body that are not natural, that disrupt yours. So when I was looking at that product, I brought things in that work to synergistically. I talked about the brain, the liver, the antioxidant. I brought a product called Sinomorium in there. That's like a sexual vitality Chinese medical herb. I put lemon in there because lemon is not only vitamin C and antioxidant, but lemon is an anionic dispersant. Everything in the universe is positive and negative charges, and lemon is 100% anionic, those negative charges to disperse energy through the body. I put calcium phosphate in there because, as I told you earlier, calcium and phosphorus make up 64% of the ash of what you would be left with. It's what your bones are primarily made of. It works on that electrical nature. So, so what I'm trying to do is look at things from an electrical standpoint of how to generate. What we find with people taking the product is they're focusing in and saying, I have more energy, I have more focus, is what they tend to report.
Yeah. So in the scope of this, what are some things that people are doing on a daily basis to shorten their telomeres? And maybe even some quote unquote healthy things that can also shorten that?
Well, the main, diet and lifestyle is really plays a key role. People who are just running on in the type A personality, not taking time to breathe, not taking time. I mean, just the fact that meditation can lengthen your telomeres says a lot. It really does, So you got to look at stress. And so most people break down and say, well, disease is caused by inflammation. And it's a stressor that leads to that inflammation aspect. And that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But that's, when you're looking at poor quality foods have been shown and to shorten your telomeres, so people who are eating processed crud, it's going to affect your health, so there's a lot of environmental factors that are affecting you. You could turn around and take it to a genetic level. You could take it to a cellular level. And again, I try to look at it from an energy level. So if you're looking at food that is not in frequency, so your body is a frequency. For women, it's like 0.000026, and for men, it's like 0.000024. And Kerry Reams, he discovered what the frequency is of humans. He discovered that when you have things on frequency, that the speed of that frequency is governed by the pHs of the body, and it's just fascinating stuff to look at. But you have to look, and when anything is off frequency, then that's going to be, the body has to say, hey, can I use it or do I need to get rid of it? So if it's a negative energy drain, or it's going to actually support my energy by enhancing, through, it's really resonance. And I could sit there and talk about resonance and why machines, like back in the 1930s, a guy named George Lavotsky created a multi-wave oscillator that he was curing 98% of terminal cancer. It's fascinating stuff by running frequencies through the body. And if they resonated with the body, it's like, stirring up and charging your battery. So when you're asking, how do I generate energy? You don't, but you can modify it. You can negate the negative energies while accentuating the positive energies. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is like, we have the unlimited source of energy. It's just that we negate that, or we can dissipate that in some ways by doing these kind of negative things to our body, versus the concept that we can also fill our bodies with different frequencies and the right products.
Correct. So that's probably a simple way of putting it. By all means, yeah, it's hard to sit here and explain things and make complex to become simple for people. So when you do, you look at diet. Diet is the key. And what I do is I test people. And then if you understand pH is your regulator of speed and sugar level is the regulator of potential energy. So, and oxygen availability. So if you teach people how to monitor their urine, what we call the Brix value, so that tells you what you're supposed to drink, and you monitor your urine pH and your saliva pH. Your urine pH dictates, your overall, your post-digestion efficiency, whereas your saliva pH is your pre-digestion efficiency. How strong is my bile in order to be able to digest things? And if you learn to eat based upon these frequency ranges, there's certain foods that have calcium sources in them that will either raise your pH or lower your pH. And so I teach a concept of, hey, based upon where you are measuring yourself, this is what you should eat. And you can measure yourself daily, and it helps you to choose variety in your diet and what foods are best for your chemistry. I actually just finished a book. I'm working on a workbook to go with it. The book is not published yet. It's in the final editing aspects. We're coming up with some visuals to help people to understand how it all comes together. Most of which I teach on my YouTube shows.
Yeah. And I would love to have you back on just to talk about that subject alone, because it is like you're saying, it's a balance aspect for your body of providing more of what helps it, what energizes it, what helps your body create that healthy homeostatic pH level.
Right.
And
everything is a balance. Perfect is in all of us when you're asking that. But to achieve perfect, it's really not worth it. You're going to go out and you're going to cheat. You're going to do things that aren't necessarily good for you. But if you learn to understand the basics of your patterns in your body, you can turn around and you can overcome that. And so, and products like Vitalometry, basically just enhance your body's ability. I can't turn around and say it generates more energy, but by supporting those processes, it's changing how the energy is used to where you experience, where you feel like you have more. My energy, my focus is up. I feel better. That's kind of the reason why I came across this product, and the reviews alone. I just tell people to go to Amazon, look it up, and look at the reviews that we're on it. On our company, we have over a 60% reorder rate. How many companies can say that 60% of the people who buy their product the first time get it again?
Right.
That,
not very many.
People love it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what that is doing, which by the way, I'll link all of this up in the show notes so you can make sure and find the product. But what that is doing is you're lengthening the telomere from that, correct?
You can't claim that you're lengthening the telomeres. Yeah. Right. I'm not claiming that it lengthens telomeres. I can sit there and show research that the herbs and everything in there have shown positive telomerase activity. I can sit there and show testimonials that people who have used this product are reporting, hey, my sex life is back in my 70s. I'm climbing mountains and I'm getting there without being exhausted. There's just different types of reports of what we're seeing. We've had people say that their hair is turning dark again, that their hair comes back in. We've had people just saying, oh my God, I can think again. Who needs coffee? We've had all these wonderful reports with the product, but we can't turn around and claim that it does any of that, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, that makes totally sense. So at the beginning, you kind of talked about like the emotional trauma and how that can shorten your telomeres. And I think that's a really big component, because I think in health and the scope of what we do as practitioners, it's often these kind of external focus of, changing our diet and our lifestyle and those kind of things. But you don't very often hear of someone saying like, oh, but the trauma is affecting you, like this internal stuff that we're fighting. And so as you've done some study and research about this, what's the practicality of truly healing that and seeing change from that?
You have to learn to understand emotion. Every one of us have had some type of process in their body where you are imprinted with how you respond to emotional stress or trauma. whether you have a parent that was overbearing and making sure that you were protected, or whether you had a parent that just seemed like, yeah, you got to toughen up, boy, and get through it. You know what I mean? So we create imprints of how we handle that. And when somebody can say something or do something, it can trigger an emotional response. And we don't even know why we're acting the way that we're doing, because something inside of us is making us feel a particular way, and we feel this way, we respond in a particular way. So the best thing for people to do is, how do you become aware of emotions? I mean, it's a lifelong challenge. I'm trying to learn it myself. I think one of the best books I've ever come across with that regard is called How We Love, you know, and it's by Kay and Milan something. I can't remember their last names, but How We Love just basically says, hey, there's basic aspects of how we're imprinted with how we respond, and what's a healthy response to where we accept that we're all broken people, you know, and you accept people for where they are, and you're not judging them based upon that. And you need to realize that you're not being judged, you know, and to how to handle that emotion. So that's an incredible feat in itself, you know, when you're looking at that. And that's where meditation, self-awareness, who am I? What are my core beliefs? Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? When people can start becoming aware of who they are, that lowered stress level is directly been shown to affect telomere aspect. You know, in reality, why do we have stress? You know, is this something? If it's not life threatening, then why am I worked up about this? You know what I mean? We should take every situation and look at it as we're in a beautiful world and with a beautiful possibility for growing and understanding and just experiencing. So why can't we take life as saying, hey, this is something that I can learn from, and if I fail, I learn even more. So, you know, Edison is like, hey, you fail. How does it feel to fail, you know, making a light bulb, you know, finding 100 ways not, you know, to failing it? What did that do to you? He's like, I didn't fail 100 times. I learned 100 ways not to make a light bulb. Let's look at the positive side of it, you know? So there's a lot of, you know, when you're looking at that mental emotional component is huge, and self-awareness can just take people to levels of health that they really didn't know, because now you're like, you know what, something's not right. What am I going to do about that?
Yeah.
Instead of ignoring it.
Yeah. That's so good. So what led you to create Vitalometry?
Oh my. So personally, I think it's a God thing. I kind of, you know, I came across the discovery, that 2009 discovery around 2014, and I was reading something, and the product that was out there was one product that was promoting it. And it was so expensive, and still is. You know, if you took the dosages that they really suggest, it can cost like $1,000 a month. It's for the rich and famous, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. So what stimulates this telomerase activity? And I went and did research. I looked up research on telomerase and printed off 150 abstracts, and just started going through them and started finding all these natural products. And it's just like, wow. If this is what stimulates activity, why is there no product that's looking at this whole picture? And that's where that compounding pharmacy part of me came in. So I looked at the herbs that had shown that activity. I looked at the eclectic aspects of herbs because of being a naturopathic doctor and just loving the principle of what herbs have to offer our body.
Yeah.
And then I just started, and I looked at how can I support various systems with herbs that all have telomerase activity. I started mixing them and putting them together, and to make them fit in capsules appropriately. I started taking it and be like, oh my God, do I really feel this well? And so I'd ask clients and like, hey, I made these. You want to be a guinea pig and try these? And what I found is that every one of them, not one, not a couple, but every single one of them said, oh my God, can I have more? I'd be like, well, I got to get there. And it came until 2018 before I actually could, putting a website together and product development and picking labels and finding a manufacturer. That stuff takes time, you know, it really does. And it came together, and it's just only been a blessing ever since. And that's kind of how it came together.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned a lot about herbs, which I deeply love, and I feel like there's so much benefit to the body. I think I get a question a lot, and I mean, this wasn't even in the scope of what I wanted to talk about today, but you might be able to answer it. How does an herb act differently than, say, another vitamin or mineral?
Well, herbs have constituents in them, you know, terpenes and I mean, all you could sit there and go through all the various constituents that are in herbs, and those different constituents can have different pharmacological activity. So a vitamin is, vitamins, although vitamins can play various roles in biochemical processes throughout the body, herbs are more, hey, I can have multiple components that can support multiple processes in the body, based. And herbs are just beautiful. I mean, there's doctrine of signatures where like walnuts look like a brain and the essential fats in them are for the brain. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, there's a lot that nature's trying to tell us of where these herbs can be beneficial for certain things. And a lot of that, did we just think that people discovered the benefit of herbs by, trial and error? Oh, that one killed them. Let's mark that off the list, And so a lot of people, even when I was in naturopathic school, there's herbalists who say, hey, let's go out into nature. Let's get quiet. Let's meditate. Hang out with this plant. What are you getting from this plant? And people who really believe that the world talks to us, and that's people who have different radar. We're all like antennas, and we receive certain vibrations that we can sense. So some people like feel energy really well, and some people can sense things, and some people are incredibly intuitive. They just can pick up something, and they're like, you have this going on. I mean, they'll be right on because they feel some type of energy in association with that. And so there are herbalists who go out to connect with nature and say, hey, this herb is kind of speaking to me. And it's all comes down to, again, energy. But when you're asking me what's the difference, well, vitamins are essential for biochemical processes, where herbs come in and are like edifiers. Let me support you. Let me lift you up and get you through this process.
Yeah. Just like you said, just enough difference. So if we go back to the concept of energy, what are your few tips that you could give on changing the way our body uses energy for the best?
Well, it starts with food. It really does. I mean, when you're looking at it, it's what you need to do. It's mineralization. So we're meant to get minerals from our food, and unfortunately we live in a demineralized soil, and where the plant is supposed to generate carbohydrates that feed the microbes in the soil, and the microbes exchange the sugar from the plant for energy for it and give the plant minerals. Is what's supposed to happen. The problem is the minerals just aren't there anymore. And so if people out there are gardening and looking for simplicity, and they do garden, you really need to look into high bricks. HIGH, high bricks, BRIX gardening. And that's remineralizing. It's understanding the soil composition and how to maximize the energy potential of a plant based upon putting the right mineral blends in your soil. So when I talk about human beings, we're just a soil. You need minerals. I have everybody take a product called Mincol. It's calcium phosphate. We already mentioned that. One with meals, because calcium strengthens the digestion and the capacity of you to break things down. But, people say, well, you can die from too much calcium. Sure, you can, but your body needs certain forms of it every day. So I start with that. Let's look at diet. Let's look at the quality of the food. Non-GMO, organic as much as possible, lower the total load, pure water. I have people drink distilled water, and we could turn around and go into why, but pretty much is because distilled water has a pH of 6.4. Biological optimization is at a pH of 6.4, whereas people are trying to teach, no, we should be alkaline at a pH of 7. At a pH of 7, things are slowing down too much, and you'll start seeing thyroid disorders and other things start popping up. So I teach that you need minerals, you need quality food. Put your body in a rhythm. How are you eating food? Breakfast for a king, or breakfast for a queen, lunch for a king, dinner for a pauper. So, some people 2 meals a day, that dinner for a pauper, how many paupers got food? It might have been fast. They didn't get food. So you see the benefits of intermittent fasting. If I eat enough in breakfast and lunch that get me through the day, then I'm not, in the evening, I'm ready to shut down and renew and go back and go to sleep, versus eating a bunch of chips and salsa and whatever else at night, where you're generating all this stuff, and your body says, hey, I'm not using this energy, so I'm going to make triglycerides and I'm going to store it. Great way to gain weight, right?
Yeah.
And so it comes down to quality of food. It comes down to actually looking at getting some minerals. I'll have people who don't know to do anything at least take some like fulvic minerals or humic minerals each day, until I turn around and look at their chemistry and say, these are the ones that you specifically need based upon some type of analytical perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So when you look at food and you are talking about measuring your pH of your saliva and your urine, you're doing that every day? Or do you find that once you start to test and understand, can you actually start to pick up? Or are you still testing yourself every day?
Oh, yeah. I test myself periodically. I'll run all my chemistry, but no, that's exactly it. That's what I encourage, is for people to learn their patterns. Do it every day, even every time you pee, until you learn your pattern. Hey, my sugars go up at this time of day. My sugars go down at this time of day. That tells you, so you know when to eat, when you're not drinking enough water, or your pHs go up, your pHs crash at night. So then, hey, this is food that brings my pH up. So this is what I should be eating in the evening. And so once you learn your patterns and you start doing it, you feel healthy. And when you don't, you clue in to like, when I feel this way, this is what my chemistry would show. So I need to eat or drink this way to correct it. That's what I teach people. That's where I'm coming out with a book. That's where I'm coming out with a workbook, to give people an understanding that life is governed by a set of natural principles. And when you honor them, you see restoration. I see people get better from things they're not supposed to get better from, but I don't treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose. All I'm doing is identifying analytically what the body does by having a definition of perfect, and then knowing how to move it back towards perfect. Does that make sense? Yeah,
totally. So, there's a big push to do more alkaline based diets, but you're saying, no, like we need to find the right pH for us.
Correct. And when you're looking at biological optimization, a urine pH of 6.4 is ideal. So what happens is everything is electromagnetic. And, if you look at what we call isotopes are things that can spin clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay. So they're basically electromagnetically, when you're in an acid environment, they're going to spin in the direction of acid. They're going to spin clockwise. When they're in an alkaline environment, they're going to spin the other way. So hydrogen and oxygen are both isotopes. What holds your body together? What percentage of your body weight is water?
Right.
We're full of water. So if your body is above 6.4, then you have an alkaline spin. And so the water molecules, you're changing the environment. So when you look at that, we can go into microbiome. You have microbes all through your body. For every cell of your body, you have 10 microbes in your body. Kind of a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if those microbes are dependent upon a particular environment, well, if the pH is off, then certain environments are going to promote certain microbes to be overgrown. So when you have those higher pHs, you tend to be parasite. You tend to see a lot of parasites. When you have those lower pHs, you tend to see a lot of yeast. So there's so much that goes into balance. By what we're trying to do is change the internal environment. So all of these things start falling in place and correcting. And it's just a beautiful pattern to watch. What we call patterns of healing, which were identified back in the 1800s by a guy named Constantine Herring. He was an early homeopath, and he identified patterns of how the body goes through healing. It's beautiful stuff to watch.
Yeah. So you said the pH of urine is 6.4. What's that of saliva?
6.4 as well.
So you wanted 6.4 on both ends.
Yes, you do. If you go to my website, to Doc Misak, DOCMISAK, DocMisak.com, I have YouTube shows, and more importantly, if you go to the media there, I have articles that explain bioelectric chemistry and what I'm talking about. So if people are like, oh my God, this is stuff I've never heard about. Is this real? Go to Doc Misak, go to the media, look at the articles that I've published in Naturopathic Doctor News and Review. It's an international publication, and I'm actually getting published in there again next month, just to kind of build upon the 3 articles that I have on there that's already about the bioelectric chemistry.
Yeah, it's all so fascinating, and it's personal too, which is an aspect that health has been missing, of kind of boxing things up. And just because it's good for someone else doesn't mean it's good for our bodies. And this really just brings it back to, okay, like you said, how can we just act from a place of love? How can we just be ourselves? And from there, treat ourselves the way it needs to be treated. So
that saying,
yeah.
I'm sorry for interjecting.
No, yeah.
But what better way to love yourself than to understand yourself through an analysis?
Right.
So if you understand your chemistry and how idealized certain foods can throw you off, because I teach people how to recognize food allergy patterns and like I'm eating something that I shouldn't. But if you start measuring yourself, all you're doing is it's a tool to love yourself. Because now I'm actually taking steps to change my overall health by understanding I'm working towards perfect by what I'm eating.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a different thought of like, instead of just constantly have to fix myself, right? You're just constantly working on bettering yourself, which are, again, two totally different emotional components inside the brain as well. And it takes into account seasonality, because I think that is also something that we miss of climate change changes our body as well. And I assume from what you found, it changes how our body responds.
Well, energy is heat. Electricity. So in the winter, when it's colder, there's a different heat aspect. Vitamin D goes down, there's less sun, so what's going to happen? Your body adjusts to the environment, just like microbes inside your body adjust to the environment. So yes, seasonality makes a huge difference here. So in the winter, you might need to take more vitamin D. In the summer, you need to take less. It's warmer. You're burning more calories. You might need to eat more food. And your chemistry tells you that. It's simple measurements.
Yeah. 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 So good. I feel like I could talk to you forever, and I really don't want this to end. So I'm going to have you back on. But the final question is, like, what are 2 or 3 points you'd like to encourage someone who wants to create healthy energy inside of their body? You've mentioned food, but outside of that, what other things could we be doing?
Well, everyone looks for the pill for every ill, and so in all honesty, Vitalometry is an amazing product. It really is. I encourage people to try it. And Alexa, because you had me on, what I'll do is anybody who is listening to your podcast, if they go to vitalometry.com or they check out docmesack.com and then they go to the Vitalometry website, they can put a discount code in Alexa. Okay, Alexa is what I'm assuming it is. Yep. And we'll give 10% for people to try that product. So, but, when you're asking me what to do, I'm going to tell people find themselves. Self-awareness is such a key. It's like first thing I do in the morning when my alarm goes off is I hit snooze. Wow. But what do I do when I hit snooze? When I hit snooze, I know that for the next 9 minutes, I pray. I go into my head and I'm like, God, thank you for this day. Who am I? What do you have in store for me? What do I need to focus in on? And then the alarm goes off. What do? I hit snooze again. And then what do I do for the next 9 minutes? I sit there and think about the things that I love most. And like, okay. And I try to visualize, how do I continually improve? How do I get to the place that I want to be? And how do I respect and honor not only this world and the people around me, but, love God and love people is really what you want to come down to.
Yeah. 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 So good. So I appreciate you being here. Before we go, I have a few quick fire questions for you, just fun things that you do in your own life. What is one tool outside of diet and kind of your morning routine? Do you have like a tool like a sauna or, obviously you've mentioned your own product, but anything that you use to actually help boost your energy? Or your frequency?
There's not one. Yeah, I have, other than Vitalometry, I have an infrared sauna. I have a hyperbaric chamber in my office. I have colon hydrotherapy. I have the multi-wave oscillator and Rife machines. I have, I go by my chemistry. The tool is measuring myself and learning my patterns. So when I understand my patterns, that self-awareness is like, hey, something's off. I need to do this. So that's the best tool that I would say that I have is teaching people that they can monitor themselves and understanding. And that's where I come from. I think that's my message for people in reality, outside of promoting a product, it's my message is like, hey, you can be healthy. It's in you, but you need to understand how to individualize it by measuring. It's an analytical perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to go on that question, how are you measuring yourself? Are you doing, what does that look like in your own life?
I measure, I run my chemistry. I'll run my sugars, pHs, salt, cell debris, chemistry, and that is my tool for measuring. When your energy goes up, you want to exercise. You want to do things that are positive. You want to get out and not be a couch potato. You want to enjoy this life, And so how do I measure? I check my urine, saliva, periodically when I feel that something's going a little bit off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're just buying basic pH strips online?
Yeah, pH strips and a refractometer is the place to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you get a 0 to 10 Brix, BRIX, 0 to 10 Brix refractometer. You can get them off of eBay and stuff. Just make sure they're not coming from China and going to fall apart on you.
Yeah.
We sell a decent one for about $60 out of our office.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned one book that you love, but what is another health book that has really shaped you in this process?
The book, well, if you're looking at the book that shaped me, it was called Choose Life or Death. Okay, it was by Dr. Carrie Reams. And Dr. Carrie Reams, like I said, when you're looking at all the historical health pioneers or health martyrs, you could say, people who tried to teach health and were thrown in jail because they were helping people become healthy, Dr. Carrie Reams is outside of them all. He explains these bioelectric concepts and brings it down to a perspective of energy. And that Choose Life or Death. There's even a PDF version out there online where people can get it for free because people try to sell a paperback book because it's not in print anymore. They'll try to ask $100 for it.
Yeah.
Choose Life or Death by Dr. Carrie Reams will give you a perspective and be like, really? Oh my God, this is amazing. What I don't like about Dr. Reams is the legality of how he puts it. He's like, you could choose life or death. If you choose this crappy lifestyle, then you're basically killing yourself. Whereas I'm more, he gave us a tool that you can measure what's going on and you can become more aware. When you're cheating, you can measure and say, yeah, I'm cheating. I need to get back on track.
Yeah. So good. What is the first thing you do every morning for your health?
Oh, I just told you, I snooze and then I go through, and that mental clarity, that prayer time, that mental focus time helps me to prepare for my day every day.
Yeah. So good. And what's one piece of advice you'd like to leave us with, something that you've heard or that you just want to share with us to encourage us as we go on this day?
To know yourself, to learn who you are, to accept who you are so you can actually accept other people.
Yeah.
If people can find out truly who they are and just not personalize and live the emotional battles that we do, it's freeing. There's freedom in it. It's amazing what people can do for themselves if they learn truly who they are and just, share the love.
Yeah. So good. Okay. Dr. Mezek, tell us where we can learn more about you, your company, what you do, your YouTube videos, all the information, and I'll make sure and link all of this up in the show notes as well.
Yeah, the best place is Doc Mezek, DocMisak.com. DocMisak.com links to my YouTube shows. It has media aspects on there. There's a direct link where you can learn more and buy Vitalometry. And again, use that Alexa in the discount code for 10% off for trying it, so people know that we're listening out there. But DocMisak.com or Vitalometry.com to learn specifically about the product.
Yeah, perfect. I'll make sure and link all that up in the show notes. I thank you so much for being here, for sharing your information, and I would love to have you back on when your book comes out to talk more about that.
Sounds awesome. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
I mean, wasn't that so fun and so informative? I'm so honored and thrilled that Dr. Mezek would come on the show and talk to you more about energy and his knowledge in this field. So if you want to check out more about Dr. Mezek, head to his website at DocMisak, that's DocMisak.com, to learn more about what he does and what he has to offer. Also, I have all of that in the show notes, so in case you missed any of that, or you're in your car or on a walk, just head into my show notes at SemperatWellness.com/222 to get all of the information from today's show, as well as a few takeaways that I learned and I want to share with you. So again, thank you so much for being here, for tuning in. This is episode 5. We are officially halfway through the energy series. If you've missed any of the other podcasts in the series, just follow along starting from episode 219. That's where they all begin. And we have 5 more to go and so much more to learn. So I'm so thrilled that you're here. I hope you stay tuned. Don't forget to share this with your friends and family. Literally, it means the world to me. A simple screenshot with why you're loving it, encouraging other people to jump on and listen means so much. So thank you again so much for listening. Check out all the resources at simplerutswellness.com and grab that summer batch cooking guide while you're there. I'll be back next week talking more about energy. Have a good one.